Doug Plummer, Garth Roberts. They're going to tell you their story, of course, but the amazing transformation that these two folks have done to a community. So we're tapping into a lot of different topics, body, soul, mind, and these guys are the community guys that have transformed their community, and we'll let the story unfold. So thank you for sharing your bigger game with us. Take us to your world. Thank you for coming. Do you guys need the?
I think we're on. I think we're on. Good.
I need to do this.
First
for
off,
you.
we are like Fred and Ethel Mertz, and we will overlap each other constantly. It's after 28 years of living together. We'll do that to you.
And I'm going to interrupt you right now and say that when we get back home, we live in Sharon Springs, New York, about 2 hours from here, that I can't wait to tell my 84-year-old mother that a woman named Carol Ann massaged his adrenal glands.
That's right.
So how was your weekend?
That's it. So after all of this, and just as, I hope you all at one point get a chance to stand up here and just feel the love from, we came here not knowing any of this. We were like, is this Scientology? If they start talking...
I had to show him the summary chapters in the book, just so he was sure.
I did.
Right?
On the way up, I'm like, read that book again. Just read it out, because if they start talking about a planet, we're out of here. And, well, at least we'll wait till dinner. But then, so we're kind of like the Ma and Pa Kettle of the bigger game.
That's us.
Yes.
We've been called a lot of things in life, but gay pioneers of our community seems to be one that sticks. So hopefully that's all in agreement with everyone here. But before we get into, I think the primary reason Rick asked us to speak today is to share our story about this community. You're going to hear a lot more about. But it occurred to me when we were listening to all the fabulous presenters today and all these wonderful words, I actually had a bigger game, which is going to be part of our introduction, about what got us to Sharon Springs. When I was 5 years old, I had the privilege of sitting. My sister had an interest in music and piano. My parents thought they couldn't afford to buy a piano, so they leased a piano, $20 a month or something. And she got her piano, and she's taking lessons. And when my mother grew up, she studied for maybe 15 or 16 years. So she had a tiny bit of technique. And one day, these moments, right? These moments that just are transformative in our lives. This was definitely one of them. At 5 years old, now I can call it was my first bigger game moment. Mm-hmm. So I was sitting down at the edge of the piano, at the upper end of the keyboard, and they were playing Bye Bye Blackbird, easy piano. I mean, this was like as simplistic as like an organ grinder could have done something a little more complex. It was so simple, but it was so beautiful. And I saw their hands on the keyboard. When you see someone playing an instrument, you really get into what you're watching. And I'm like, how do these hands, or a voice certainly, how do they make that gorgeous music? How does that, I don't get it. But it's beautiful and it's meaningful. And that really started a journey for me into studying music. Kicked my sister right off the piano. All I wanted to do was practice. She could have cared less.
She's still bitter about it.
My parents ended up buying a junk piano, and anyway, I studied piano through college and graduate school, moved to New York. My desire as a young boy was to play on Broadway. That just seemed to be a likely connection. And I'm going to let Doug take over in 2 seconds, but it's funny, as sometimes games go, I got there, and it didn't take long. I was very fortunate. My first Broadway show was Les Mis, and I played Phantom, I played a ton of shows, and toured with Cats, and had a really, really great career. But all of a sudden it was like, well, been there, done that. It kind of felt like, I guess my goal, as a young child, it was a great goal, but I didn't really have anything to build on it from there at that time. It just felt like I needed to do something else. So no sooner had I arrived on Broadway, I just felt like it was time to move on and do something else. I did stick around for 4 or 5 more years, and this is really where we met. But you'll get more of that in a second.
Summer theater in Florida. I was an actor, and Garth was the assistant conductor, so I married up. He was staff. It was very exciting. And it was 28 years ago. We were nauseating. Yeah, and it was disgusting. They wanted us to die. And because we'd come out at the end of the show every night, I'd be like, in the orchestra pit, and the conductor would go. He was very bitter. But anyway, but we moved to New York, and we're just, I think I'm speaking with Jessica. Where's Jessica? our newest, bestest, dearest friend, who that's what I'm loving about this conference. I'm meeting all these great friends I never knew I had. You know, are you feeling it too? I'm like, I don't know who you are, but I'm loving you. And so we met Jessica, and also a performer, and I went away and did a show, and it was a terrible show, and we were all terrible in it. It was one of those, anybody see Waiting for Guffman, that movie? Where it's just, these people write this in Blaine, Missouri, they write this horrible show, and they think they're fabulous, and they're going to Broadway. Well, this was like an English teacher from Larchmont who wrote this show, and it was so awful, but it was a job in Florida in the winter, so we went. And in the meantime, it was a non-equity production. They had changed the wording from non-equity to ineligible. Well, I don't know about you, but as most performers, you either have to have a giant ego or no ego. It's like, fine, just hate me, please hate me. You know, because you can't possibly hate me as much as I do. That kind of actor thing. Like, so I'll do anything for you. And so we got back, and you're ineligible. It's like, you're unworthy. And I did not know your connection to Louise Hay until we read the book on the car on the way up. Yeah, I was always a really late study. And the one thing that got me through it and got me back into auditioning was a Louise Hay affirmation, which is, I'm willing to release the need to feel unworthy. I'm worthy of the best in life, and I lovingly allow myself to accept it. Sadly, by that point, I was already like, it's a New York Theater. And I was just not having it. And Garth was afraid that I was working for a caterer, and he was afraid I was going to end up on Barbara Walters' dining room table with a semi-automatic weapon. It was kind of in the cards.
Which leads us on this journey. I'll catch up now. So we rented a car. We drove up to this little place that no one ever had heard about called Sharon Springs, which is near Cooperstown, New York, an hour west of Albany. That's really all you need to know. It was the place that time had forgotten. Mm-hmm. So we found a house that was for sale in 1990 for $21,000. And that's about all I had in the bank. And so we drove through Sharon Springs to see this property that was not in the village, but our realtor drove us through town. And again, this is bigger game number 2, without a doubt. We drove through this village down, it's off 2 state roads with the New York State Thruway and US Route 20, which are, you know, the Thruway is huge. And this little village that's tucked in, it's an old resort town very similar to Saratoga Springs. Bathhouses, hotels, rooming houses, cottages, all of them in 1990 as we're driving through Main Street, vacant, boarded up, shuttered, ghost town. And we asked the realtor, it was really one of those, pull over, what the heck is going on? He pulled over, we both got out of the car, we looked around, we saw all these derelict properties, and that was our game changer right there. And we had no idea what that was, but we made a connection with this little place, this community that time had forgotten. And I mean, the residents around the village had forgotten about it too. It was very perplexing for us. So
we see this hotel, and it's called the American Hotel. We did not know this at the time, but it had been abandoned for 30 years. So the roof was collapsing in, and the porch was collapsing, and there were things living in it, not people. And when you have that moment that so many of you have spoken of, and I'm sure you've heard, is where it was love at first sight. She saw me, I saw her. I did not know I was going to be a hotelier, a restaurateur. We didn't even think we were going to leave New York, and I knew in that instant that I would own that hotel. And he thought I was insane. Because that Christmas, he was playing with photography, and I got this picture of the American. It's one of the first structures placed in the National Register in New York State because of its architectural style. It's very southern. It's got two big porches and big columns. And he handed me this picture, and I turned it over really slowly because I was sure there was a key on the back. Yeah. Reality has
Doug
never
comes from
been
a
a
very
real
privileged
necessity.
family. Very privileged family.
So I was like,
you bought me the hotel. No,
like,
but I
no,
took this great picture.
I took a picture of it. I was like,
thought
all
that
right,
was sweet.
then can I have a puppy? Yeah, that was the other gift. But
So back up to, so anyway, let's see, timeline. So we found this community, left New York 2 years later. We part-timed it for 2 years, couldn't stand it. Every time we got in the car to drive back to the city, we cried. Every time he picked me up after my matinee performance, we were elated. We were joyful. We were all those good things on the walls. Yes, all those great things. And so that started this conversation of, giving it all up, right? So we did, and we moved up to Sharon Springs, clueless, no jobs, no money. We did buy the ratty farmhouse. We took a year off and scratched our heads a lot and figured that...
Because what do an unemployed pianist and actor do in the wilds of central New York?
Right.
Because we are virtually skill-free.
Right.
I mean, we really are. We have no marketable skills of any kind.
Right, right.
He can play the piano, but yeah.
Yeah, tips, no.
No.
So it occurred to us that maybe this long-forgotten little village, of which there was nothing going on, might need a little cafe bakery. So that was our first business that we opened in 1993. It was called Rockville Cafe. And we named it after the hamlet of Rockville, so there's a little historic connection. Most of the locals had never even heard of Rockville. And then because we loved this community so much, we were great collectors of Sharon Springs memorabilia, and there's a lot of it around there. Postcards, menus, hotel signs, you name it. So we decorated all the walls with memorabilia and opened in 1993 and ended up creating a sense of community that hadn't previously existed. And I think the locals were kind of laughed at us, I always say, for two reasons. First of all, a gay couple from New York going to open a business in the country. I mean, in 1993, really. Just was odd. But I think more importantly, they were laughing about the fact that why would anyone want to open a business in this town?
They were all trying to get out. We were like,
right.
Can we just hide here?
Right.
We just
saw, I think we saw promise. We saw so much promise in the fact that the possibilities of what this community could become, and there was no place to start but the bottom. So that's what we did, and it turned out that this cafe bakery was a lovely choice because it created a sense of community that the village hadn't had in probably 30 or 40 years. So all the locals came in on any given Sunday morning. You would have a farmer sitting at our counter eating a sprinkled donut, reading the Penny Saver with SHIT on his boots, and next to him, a nice New York couple having Eggs Benedict and reading the New York Times. And he and I would sit in the kitchen and look out and say, what are we creating here, right? What is going on? This town is transforming itself, and whatever we're doing to help make that happen, so be it.
But it was also wonderfully empowering in that, and this, yeah, sorry, remember the P words. In that, and this is, it's a hokey refrigerator magnet slogan, but it's true and worthy of repeating and remembering, and that is, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. And I know there ought to be some weird music playing as I say that, but it's that whole thing of like, especially in small town America, where I think sometimes lose sight of how fortunate we are, because we are free. Yeah, we didn't mention this, but hi, my name is Doug Plummer. I'm running for mayor of Sharon Springs, just in case. And vote early and often, please. I really am running for mayor, and yes, you can applaud. I need it. What I really need is my head examined. I kept saying, hoping he would say, no, don't do it. Just don't do it. But anyway, the one thing, and I kept finding people that were not registered to vote. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're kidding. Yeah. You really don't vote. So the people who are getting blown to bits in Afghanistan, for you lazy SOB, because you don't give a rat's ass about what happens in this country, you should be sent to Afghanistan. And the ones who are fighting, should come home and try and live normal lives. Don't I sound like a politician? Sorry, that's inappropriate. But that's what was so beautiful about Sharon Springs, was that if we could really do anything we wanted, as long as it was mildly within the law, and you kind of paid attention to the zoning. And there's something incredibly empowering in that. If we had wanted to, we recreated a Chamber of Commerce. We recreated an Arts Council. We bought this ratty-ass hotel. And just as we're buying these things, and they're all like, those poor boys. There's something wrong with them. But they paid attention. So, and every time we'd say, we're going to do a festival. And they're like, well, who says you can? Well, nobody says we can't. So why not? If you don't want to come, don't come. But so that has just spiraled, and now it's kind of fun now that we're like the gay pioneers, that ought to come with an outfit. Fringe and, a big, skunk tail. And, don't pet the black and white kitties if you're out walking tonight. They're all coming out of their dens right now. It's like, what is that smell? Sorry,
So we're moving on.
I digress.
You're digressing. So this is
This is my job, and
right.
this is his
our,
job.
our financial
Bring it
planners that we
back.
went to a few years ago. No, God, I love him. I mean, I love him. But we took this Colby Index test. Maybe some of you have heard about or taken. It's ancient. And obviously, we've been together 28 years in June. We were married in September 2011. We have a great life. And we took this test maybe, 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we sat down with the folks, our planners in the office afterwards, and they said, you guys are great. Not only are you like a happily married couple, but Doug's the inspiration, and I'm the one that gets things done. So as a team, as a business team, we've made a great model for each other and for others. Doug dreams it.
I'm the big picture guy.
Right. And I might fight it, and I have to think about it, and I have to make it work, and I have to work out all the details, but I said, without one another, you'd get nothing done. So we do feel very blessed to have that.
You need that yin and the yang.
Yes.
Because if
yes.
you have two yins, all hell breaks loose.
So the American Hotel, which we bought in '96, 3 years after the cafe had been open, another clueless adventure. We bought the building to save it. We didn't own the cafe, we just rented there. So we bought the American, you'll see a slideshow of it in a little bit, for $18,000. And it was a lot of money back then.
It was cash.
It was cash, right. And we continued running the cafe, we spent 3 years coming down every day and kind of looking at it, and we'd bring pickle buckets down from the cafe, and we'd have our hammers and we'd knock plaster down, and when we had a couple $100 saved, we'd rent a dumpster, and then we'd throw the plaster in the dumpster and have it towed away. When we had, oh my God, remember we had like $2,500 or $3,000 in the bank, which was enough to jack the floors of the hotel. We did that. We kept coming back to it every day after work and thinking about it, and then this dream started about, do you think we could ever raise the money and open this hotel? How could we ever do that? Really not a dime in the bank. So we kind of opened this idea up. I started writing a business plan, another thing I'd never done before, but we kind of learn as we go along, right? So I connected with a good friend who helped us write a business plan, presented it to our county, some state offices, our generous parents, friends, neighbors. We had probably 8 promissory notes out between state, federal loans. Neighbors, we had a neighbor come to us who loaned us $15,000. I did not ask her for money, but she said, I believe in you and what you're doing, and what you've already started here in Sharon Springs is important, and I want to be part of that process. So amazingly, we're fast forwarding, business plan written to about 2000, we opened in 2001, we raised $500,000, and to this day, don't ask me how. I describe it, but I can't believe that it's true.
It also came down to a local banker who said, call me crazy, but I'm going to give you the money. We were like, oh no, now we have to do it. I mean, you were the thing, like, we wanted to, but nobody would give us any money. So, back to the cafe. But no, he was like, yeah, call me crazy, we'll do it. And we're like, son of a gun. All right, and then the little old lady started to appear and give us money. And then, again, it just, we are so incredibly blessed, is the contractor, local contractor. We said, what's it going to cost to do this? And he gives us a quote, and I said, well, I really shouldn't tell you this, but I didn't ask anyone else. I want you to do it, but that can't be right, that number. And he said, no, that's it. I said, well, is that remarkably low? He said, it's preposterously low. I said, well, why would you do that? I'm going to have to sell a limb if you need any money after this, because there is no more. We borrowed everything we can. He said, no, I'll stick to that. And I said, well, why would you do that? And he said, because I'm a Christian and it's not nice to take advantage of crazy people. I swear to God. I'll use that to my advantage, but really? And he said, actually, yeah, you've got to be wrong in the head. Everyone thinks that you're impaired. And he said, but if this works, and it very well may, you're going to completely change the village that I love and that I grew up in. And so fast forward, our opening day, and just a funny thing, we had, there's a lot of homophobia, of course, in the village. And if, like anything, xenophobia, we have anti-Semitism, whatever, whoever your hater is. Giving them credence is like, really? Yeah, forget it. I got no time. And so this old gentleman one day he had an old drugstore, hardware store right down the street. And I walked in, and And I was going to buy, because the place is falling apart, and he'd had a stroke, and we were feeling bad for him, so we're buying stuff there. And even it was so old that even the masking tape didn't have sticky on it anymore. You undid the top and went, and I'm like, I'll put that back. So I have all this stuff that I'm buying that I don't really need.
Remember his dog? His dog had peed all over the back of the
dog had peed
store.
everywhere.
We're
And
like
so
we're unwrapping like paper towels and like just to keep his store
because
neat.
I'm feeling bad for this guy. So we get up there, and this guy, and I'm about to buy my like circular saw because I'm so butch, and he said, or trying desperately to, and not cut off a finger. And he said, this guy says, "Hey, nice village you got here." And he goes, "Yeah, if you like faggots and Jews." Oh, my freaking God! So I put this up. I was like, "You need this more than I do." So I never went back in. So that was the end of him. But on the opening day of the hotel, when all these people are on the porch and the hotel is alive and it's painted and we're near death well, I had lost 40 pounds and that was really cool, but it's a bad way to lose it, stress. And we were just, it was so magnificent. And it was all these people are on the porch, and here he comes waddling up on the porch. And I was like, oh God. And he says, "You know, I don't like who or what you are, but I like what you did. So I'd like to shake your hand." And I said, "Well, you know, Reuben, I don't like who or what you are, but I'll take that. Now get the hell off my porch."
Right.
And he was like,
You're trespassing.
"I will have you arrested for trespassing, you SOB."
Okay, so timeline, I guess.
do the movie?
The hotel worked, and that's why we're still here. So this is
do the befores and afters?
Yeah, do that in just a couple seconds, and we'll talk really quickly because we have one a slideshow before and afters of the village. You can get kind of a sense as to what things used to look like. It's a 20-year timeline, but that's as long as we've been there. So, but we want to tell you that we're in our 13th season at the American Hotel, and thank you.
Yay!
You're sweet to applaud. When we opened, the New York Times came, Rachel Ray came, HGTV came. We were just blessed with so much press, and we got 3 historic preservation awards, Preservation League, New York State Office of Parks and Recreation, Historic Preservation, and National Trust. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, our world was really accelerating and changing quickly. Business as usual.
We're the darlings of the preservation community.
We were not considered pioneers at that time.
No.
But then our friends, you may have heard of our friends, the community, this did sort of bring a lot of change in our community. So businesses started moving in, friends and family started moving in. We brought our friends up from New York City, and then our friends Josh and Brent, the fabulous Beekman Boys, who you may or may not know of, but they had a reality show on Planet Green 2 seasons ago. Anyone know the fabulous Beekman Boys? I'm just curious.
And then they won the Amazing Race in October.
Yes, they were the gay couple that won.
They were the goat farmers.
The goat farmers, right. Good friends of ours. Anyway, they're fabulous marketers. Part of our success is that we really can't explain it. We know so little about business. We are so homegrown and so organic, and yet we have achieved successes in our life.
And willing to take advice from anyone we perceive to know more than we do, which is virtually everyone.
Right. So Josh and Brent move in, and they are all about marketing, and they are all Martha Stewart, and they are everything. And they, too, have brought a great new interest in our community. We were featured in their show, which brought all sorts of business to our community. They're great neighbors and pals. I think we need to move on to this video
So, yeah,
now.
we're going to do this. But one funny thing was, when we first got this, we took a video camera around, and we decided that there was a show on, like, I don't know, some home show, earlier home show. I think it's called The Home Show. And we're trying to buy a community. And we were like, oh my God, that's us. Everything is for sale. I mean, everything is for sale. I think they ended up buying like Fern Gulf, Idaho.
They bought like one post office.
Yeah, it had like a building, and we showed them 30 buildings for sale. But we put this thing together, and I used to work for Cater, so I had access to all like New York City society. And who makes the world run but secretaries and nurses. So go into the secretary and be like, "Can you put this on Mrs. Desk?" And I put all these VHS tapes. That's how long ago around this.
They weren't beta.
And they weren't beta. And so a lot of these pictures come from that, where everything was a lot of the befores. And so, because every single building was decrepit.
Right.
And-
So what we're going to see now, these are, we have to move on. Let's lower the lights. We're going to show this video. Okay, the afters are current. The befores go back 20 years. Some of them. Before.
Purple, really?
That's Josh and Brent's house. Beekman Boys. This is just downtown Sharon Springs. That's a lovely before, actually. A really nice after. This is the old post office and bank. 2 stores today. Look at this one. Those are behind our house.
Those are ours.
This is an old gentleman's club called the Casino. Look at that.
It's for sale.
That's its sister house. It's not the same. This is now a bed and breakfast. This is now retail with an apartment. Oh, this is great. Watch this. Check out this B&B before. Ah. That's our house. That's the old Roseboro Hotel.
For sale for $375,000.
This is an old schoolhouse. This houses our new spa. Thank you, Craig and Cheryl. It's our friend Michelle. It's called the Stone House. Wow.
It too is for sale for $1 million.
These last series of pictures after this are our hotel when the music has ended, but you can kind of see what we found. That's the American. And that was the back of the American.
You fall down.
More ruin and decay. There she is.
Our baby. So anyway, of course, this is not, oh, thank you. This is not us, and you thought we wouldn't have enough to say.
Good? Are we
10
good?
minutes.
Oh, good.
10.
We're not done yet. We thought we were going to talk for 10
I
minutes.
told you I could fill a couple of hours. It might be useless, but I could fill a couple of hours. So we've been unbelievably blessed with this experience, and just the whole thing of that small community thing, and the fact that as a gay man I'm running for mayor, and even though I do have competition, but anyway, but it's been wonderfully empowering. We've met some amazing people. The one shop that was you saw it said love we have another TV personality couple that have moved there. From a show called Sell This House on A&E, a guy named Roger Hazard, a big muscle-bound designer, and he and his husband have moved there, and they moved to New York State because they said, even in Texas and being big muscle-bound guys, he was never comfortable saying, this is my husband, and afraid that he would get dragged behind a pickup truck later that night. And so thankfully, New York and Sharon Springs has presented a very, very comfortable and safe community for them to come and feel very comfortable and blessed and all that. So our next project that we're just going to do quickly is, again, we're tearing out of there yesterday morning because now across the street from the hotel is an old Masonic hall, and we're going to turn it into a theater. And it's like
Calling back to our roots.
going back to our root. Yeah, it's
We
all
are roots.
full
We're
circle.
like our own root story.
Mm-hmm. And so it's an 1889 structure. It needs a lot of work. But we have friends who are all Broadway people who have moved to the village and are helping us with it and trying to get the 501c3 thing. And but just on a kind of metaphysical level, knowing that when we first saw the American, I used to sit on the porch of the place across the street and commune with this thing and just be like, I don't know why, I don't know, you have some hold on me, and so I would take a coin out of my pocket, I would wish on it, and throw it up onto the second floor porch. And the wish was always, if I'm going to help you, you have to help me. You have to show me what to do. And I was kind of think it would be lottery numbers. But since I have the attention span of a gnat, that even if she had beamed them to me, I would have forgotten them. Or have been like, what? And to this day, I swear my mother came back to me in a dream and from the great beyond and gave me lottery numbers, and I can only remember one of them because I was so excited to see her. You could at least give me a warning you're coming back in a dream. The one and only time she shows up. And so I went up after we got this, and I collected all of the change, which is kind of cool. All of it turned black because we have this incredibly potent sulfur spring in the village. And our other project that we're doing is working on a community park across the street, and that's my baby on the village board. And it was really great. Last week we had a park cleanup day, and 60 people showed up to just dig rocks out and pull shrubbery down and
Yeah. There's so much good work going on in our community now, and for what we have done to help make that happen, what little storyline you've been able to get, we're just glad that we found this community, and whatever we have brought to it that's made it a little bit better, we're grateful for. The lemons into lemonade thing, there's a reason. That really means something to a lot of us, and certainly to me, the way we've transformed our lives. And the theater too represents one of those things where we're going to be doing that with other people's money. It's going to be, we're setting up a nonprofit and all those things. But we want to, there was a mention about legacy earlier. For us too, we do have this business, and someday, if we're able to, we will retire from it, and hopefully someone will take it and make it even better and do more wonderful things with it. The theater across the street is very meaningful to us at this point in our lives, being 51 and 52 years old, and retirement maybe, I don't know, maybe within 10 years or so, but that the theater, if we can build this, it's really a center for the center for the arts, all sorts of arts, lots of educational components. That's really the legacy we'd like to leave behind to our community, because this will sell and become someone else's, and they'll do something great with it, but we feel like we're really tied with this project now, and grateful to be part of it.
Absolutely.
And
one of the greatest things, just, the blessings, and you have to take them and realize them when you find them or when they are presented to you. And they come in the strangest of ways. The first year we opened the American, and as I said, we are near death. And we're like, we didn't know what the heck we were doing. Thank God we had a great chef, and he knew what he was doing, but he was like, I'm going to kill you both.
Remember our relationship was falling apart too?
And our relationship was
Just
crashing and
throwing that
burning.
in.
We were like parents with a new baby. We only spoke of the baby and never spoke about anything else. So crashed and burned. But one night there was a knock on the screen door of the hotel, which is funny because no one ever knocks on the door of a hotel. And I look out, and there are five or six little Hasidic Jewish ladies, all about this big. It's the Sabbath, and they're out for a stroll. And I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Yes, can we come in?" I said, "Well, sure, anybody can come in," because it had been a kosher hotel for years. And I said, "So, do you remember when it was the kosher hotel?" She said, "Oh, yes, yes." And I said, and she said, "Oh, it was not nice." Now, she did say the funniest thing I've ever heard, and somebody please embroider it on a pillow because I think it's hysterical. She said, "You know us. From dust we come, to dust we will return, and in between we don't dust." I am not making that up. I was like, ha! Mrs. Henny Youngman.
And you remembered it. Good boy.
I couldn't believe it. It was so funny. So they all go into the dining room, and they look like they're attached at the hip because they're all in a group. And the rabbis are standing down on the sidewalk, and they are not happy that they have made this foray into what is now Gentileville and gay Gentileville. It just gets worse and worse. And so a friend of mine who was in the full packed dining room, and he said, "I thought they were going to sing." Because they just kind of stood there, like the Amish. They're like staring at like what's on the table. And then they wander out. And so one of the little ladies, and she was about this big, had to be in her late 80s. She said, "I want to tell you something." And I thought, oh, God, here it comes. I'm going to get it right between the eyes. And she says, "First, my name is Eva, like the first woman, and Israel, like, well, you know." And I said, "Well, hi, Eva Israel. I'm Doug Plummer, and I know I can't shake her hand or anything." And she says, "And I want to tell you, Mazel Tov!" And she screams it. Scared the bejesus out of me. And then I started to cry because it was the blessing we had been waiting for. And to have it come from a little old Jewish lady who crossed boundaries and cultures and decades and all that to give that little tiny, unbelievably important gift. And it was like the hotel, she was like a big mother hen. She just settled down onto, she's like, "All right, boys, let's cook some food.
Yep.
Let's feed some people and let's do some good work." And that from there I was like, wow, this is going to work. We're going to be able to do this. And again, she went orthopedic shoes out the door. And it was a real gift.
That's
and
a great
the whole
story.
thing of taking blessings whenever they are presented to you, how obscure they may appear at the time.
That's right. Thank you, Doug. And I think we're running a tiny bit late, but I think we started a tiny bit late. So we have our last little video clip, which I went around the community with my iPhone asking some business owners and property owners of all ages and backgrounds and whatever, one question. It was, why Sharon Springs? So we'll lower the lights down and check this out.
My husband and I were drawn to Sharon Springs because of the natural beauty of the landscape and all the historic architecture. And we never expected when we moved here to what seemed like a ghost town at the time to find a thriving community of like-minded people. And over the years, all those like-minded people have done wonderful things, restoring homes, starting businesses, and really bringing what seemed like a ghost town back to life.
Well, I've lived here in Sharon Springs or in the area
Retired
for
Army
around
colonel.
50 years, and I came here because I was looking for a job school teaching, and I fell in love with this old house.
She loaned us $40,000. We love Jean.
And of course, those things held me here, but really the thing that continues to hold me forever and ever and ever is the people. The people here welcome me with open arms and have been so cooperative and generous with their time. There's so many wonderful people living here that I couldn't even name them all. But it's a wonderful place to live. And no one could pick a nicer place and a nicer group of people.
Community, community, community. That's what brings us to Sharon Springs, why we like it. It's people who really want to work together, really diverse people, different people who want to work together to get stuff done.
And I think why people from all over the world have become so enchanted by Sharon Springs is because when you turn that corner and you come down the hill, all you see is potential. You see so much potential. And Doug and Garth were the pioneers of change. And all the people who have come since them have all been lured in by the potential. And one of these days, it will be back up to its former glory.
Then we wouldn't have potential and the people wouldn't come.
Yeah, but we'll be retired.
We'll always keep a little bit of potential.
About 10 years ago, my husband and I came up here to Sharon Springs to get a dog. We got the dog, went back home, and kept on coming back up here because we liked the area so much. In all that time that we spent coming up here, we developed a lot of friends. We developed a lot of relationships that we never had before. We developed a sense of community, which we never had before. And it's something that I still, to this day, find the biggest reason that we came up here for was the people. We opened up a business 3 years ago, 204 Main Bar and Bistro, of which we're very proud of. And it's developing. It's a business. It's something we're very proud of. And we really like living up here. We really do.
Came up here in 1946 when my parents bought property. Married up here in the 50s. Moved up here permanently in 52. And loved the community. In the 70s, few of us got together and we decided we needed a museum. And this museum now is operating, has been operating since 71, and we're very proud of it. The schoolhouse was moved here in the 90s, and we had a tough time moving this here because there were a lot of regulations, but we finally got it here. And it is original as it was where it stood on Chestnut Street.
My husband and I bought a house in Sharon Springs 11 years ago, and I love Sharon Springs because it's a historic spa, has a historic spa background. The energy here is very timeless, and we opened a business about 1.5 years ago. And people come in and tell us how they used to work in the restaurants and the spas. They tell us their stories, and there just seems to be so many people that are enchanted with our town. So it's great to be a part of that. And we love providing spa services to the community and bring back some of the relaxation and restoration that has happened here for over 100 years.
I came to Sharon Springs on a road trip. We stopped to see some friends that I had known from Florida. They said, "You have to see this house." We walked up to it. It was abandoned. I fell in love. I did fall in love with the house, but I stayed here and basically fell in love with the community. I found some of the best friends that I've ever had in my entire life, Doug and Garth as an example. This is a town where you can be as hands-on as you want. You can do anything. If you're willing to take on the responsibility, they're more than willing to let you run with it. This is a great place. I would recommend it to anyone. It's small town America on a very small thing. So come to Sharon Springs. It's wonderful.
She's a realtor. She's sell.
Why Sharon Springs? Well, throughout our life, people have been asking us why we chose this over one choice, which was East Hampton, the other one, which was a family home in Ireland. But we did select Sharon Springs. It had everything that we were looking for. It had the beautiful air, it had the clear skies, it had the beautiful scenery, the landscape, the architecture, and it just had that feeling that was right for us. They always say the more senses that are touched when you find something that you care for, then that means it's home for you, and Sharon Springs did just that. You could smell the flowers and the earth, we could see the stars, we could feel the fresh air on our faces, and it was just a wonderful place to be and raise a child.
Hi, I'm Gail. And I'm Drew Taylor, and we have been residents of Sharon Springs for about 5 years, although have been familiar with Sharon for a good couple of decades now. And I guess...
Owned the house for 20.
Owned the house for 20. That's 2 decades. And we have...
And we have a business here called Luna Cakes by Design.
Yes, specialty cakes. Why Sharon Springs? I think the idea is that it's about the group of people. It all comes down to people in the end, and relationships, and community, and the idea that everybody believes in evolution, that you have to change. In order for things to move forward, you have to change. And I think everyone in Sharon really promotes that and believes that.
So I think the thing that drew us to Sharon Springs, well, first of all, we were drawn for the beauty of the area. It's gorgeous and scenic and full of interesting historic properties, and that's our thing. That's what we fell in love with first. But
and then the people. The people play a big part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's very involved in the community. That was very attractive to us.
Yeah, I think it was exciting for us to be able to have an opportunity to be really fully invested in the village, because there are so many projects and so much interest in bettering the village. And
we were drawn into that.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't
exciting.
really come here to open up a furniture showroom, but we were kind of excited and enthusiastic by all of the energy of other people starting up businesses that we went there.
Yeah, it's infectious, basically. I mean, we really got drawn into it, and it's given us opportunities to be involved in bettering the community, which is something that to be honest, in a big city you just don't really have that opportunity easily.
No,
and here there's so many opportunities to pitch in and help out, and
that's
make an
it.
impact.
Everybody seems to help out each other.
Yeah.
That's a big part.
It is, and you might think that living in a small village in a rural area could be kind of lonely, but I feel like we are more connected socially and see our neighbors and friends more often here than we ever did.
We have a much bigger social life than we've ever had anywhere else.
Absolutely, and we sit around and tell each other the same stories over and over again, but it's kind of fun, and it's always interesting.
Yeah, we love it here.
Yeah, and we're staying here for a little while, right?
I hope so.
All right.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, thank you.